This audio reading is from the book John Ploughman's Pictures by Charles Spurgeon. Our selected reading is chapter 22. You can't catch the wind in a net. Some people get windmills in their heads and go in for all sorts of silly things. They talk of ruling the nation as if men were to be driven like sheep, and they prate of reforms and systems as if they could cut out a world in brown paper with a pair of scissors. Such a body thinks himself very deep, but he is as shallow as a milk-pan. You can soon know him as well as if you had gone through him with a lighted candle, and yet you will not know a great deal after all. He has a great head, and very little in it. He can talk by the dozen or the gross and say nothing. When he is fussing and boasting of his fine doings, you soon discover that he makes a long harvest of very little corn. His tongue is like a pig's tail, going all day long and nothing done. This is the man who can pay off the national debt, and yet, in his little shop, he sells 2 apples in 3 days. He has the secret of high farming and loses more at it than any man in the county. The more he studies, the more he misses the mark. He reminds me of a blind man on a blind horse, who rode out in the middle of a dark night, and the more he tried to keep out of ditches, the more he fell in. When they catch live red herrings on Newmarket Heath, he will bring out a good thing, and line his pockets with gold. Up till now, he says, he has been unlucky, and he believes that if he were to make a man a coffin, he would be sure not to die. He's going to be rich next year, and you will then see what you shall see. Just now he would be glad of half a crown on account, for which he will give you a share in his invention for growing wheat without ploughing or sowing. It is odd to see this wise man at times when his wits are all up in the moon. He is just like Chang, the Chinaman, who said, "Here's my umbrella, and here's my bundle, but where am I?" He cannot find his spectacles, though he is looking through them, and when he is out riding on his own ass, he pulls up and says, "Wherever is that donkey?" I have heard of one learned man who boiled his watch and stood looking at the egg, and another who forgot that he was to be married that day, and would have lost his lady if his friend had not fetched him out of his study. Think of that, my boy, and don't fret yourself because you are not so overdone with learning as to have forgotten your common sense. The regular wind-catcher is soft as silk and as green as grass, and yet he thinks himself very long-headed, and so indeed he would be if his ears were taken into the measurement. He is going to do well, there's no telling what. He is full of wishes but short of will, and so his buds never come to flowers or fruit. He is like a hen that lays eggs, and never sits on them long enough to hatch a single chick. Moonshine is the article our friend deals in, and it is wonderful what he can see by it. He cries up his schemes, and it is said that he draws on his imagination for his facts. When he is in full swing with one of his notions, he does not stick at a trifle. Will Shepherd heard one of these gentry the other day telling how his new company would lead all the shareholders on to Tom Tiddler's ground to pick up gold and silver, and when all the talk was over, Will said to me, "That's a lie," with a lid on and a brass handle to take hold of it. Rather sharp this of Will, for I do believe the man was caught on his own hook and believed in his own dreams. Yet I did not like him, for he wanted us poor fellows to put our little savings into his hands, as if we could afford to fly kites with labourers' wages. What a many good people there are who have religious crazes. They do nothing, but they have wonderful plans for doing everything in a jiffy. So many thousand people are to give half a crown each, and so many more a crown, and so many more a sovereign, and the meeting-house is to be built just so, and no how else. The mischief is that the thousands of people do not rush forward with their money, and the minister and a few hard-working friends have to get it together little by little in the old-fashioned style, while your wonderful schemer slinks out of the way and gives nothing. I have long ago found out that pretty things on paper had better be kept there. Our master's eldest son had a plan for growing plum trees in our hedges as they do in Kent, but he never looked to see whether the soil would suit, And so he lost the trees which he put in, and there was an end of his damsons. Circumstances alter cases. Different ways suit different places. New brooms sweep clean, but they mostly sweep up dirt. Plough with what you please, I stick to the old horses which have served me so well. Fine schemes come to nothing. It is hard work that does it, whether it be in the world or in the church. In the laborious husbandman, you see, what all true Christians are or ought to be. This concludes chapter 22. Thank you for listening.